So this is the Sony 28-70mm kit lens, and I've had this lens since 2017, but it was first introduced in 2013. But I haven't really used it that much since I got other premium lenses and totally brushed it off like some photography fuckboy. So why don't we take this old lens out on a photo walk here in Hong Kong and see what we can capture with it. Kit lenses are what comes when you buy a new camera, and you can purchase these in a bundle so that you can save a bit more money. They are often associated with being a starter or beginner lens because there's not really much to talk about them. I mean, they're not the sharpest lenses out there. Their minimum aperture range is quite high, so they're not as fast and they're quite basic. So we can call them Keith lenses. In terms of the minimum aperture range of not being able to stop below f3.5, when doing landscape photography, you tend to use higher apertures like f8 to f11, so you get a deeper depth of field. So in my case, when doing landscape photography, I think this minimum aperture limitation doesn't really apply too much in my case. So for example, in a scene like this, I want a deeper depth of field because I want the background mountains to be in focus and also to still have a sharper foreground like the stairs. So in this case, I took a photo with an aperture of f7.1, which is much higher than the minimum aperture range of this kit lens. So because these lenses are meant to be generic, they can actually be pretty versatile. For example, the lenses I use more often these days will be the Sony 16-35mm G Master, very wide angle lens, great for landscape photography, very sharp. And on the other end, I use the Sony 100-400mm telephoto, great for zooming in towards the details, very sharp and have excellent compression. But then that leaves me with a large gap from 35mm to 100mm, which this kit lens at 28-70mm can provide sufficient coverage. And with that additional focal range, you can have plenty more compositions and photos to capture. So for example, in the scene behind me, if I use a wide angle lens, I'm going to include a lot of the clutter in the trees in the foreground. And having the cityscape at the back will look a bit more minimal or not as important. But if I use a telephoto lens, it might work out actually, but then it might appear too tight in certain perspectives. So having a kit lens that's going to be on the middle ground of focal ranges might work well in these scenarios. So can you take great photos with just a kit lens? Yeah, well, they're definitely not the greatest, but they're not completely terrible. So I do think that in photography, you choose the right tools for the right job, and it is up to your skill and experience to maximize the potential of your gear. Too bad I have neither, so I buy all these fancy lenses and gear to compensate for. I think for this scene, I quite like the balance of having Kowloon Peak on the left side and then this tall tower on the right hand side, and then the side light coming from the setting sun, giving it a golden hour look.
I think these compositions really worked out quite well because of the natural framing of the trees and the side light from the setting sun, showing that maybe gear doesn't matter as much as we thought it would.
So I'm actually having a lot more fun than I expected in going out with this very old lens with me out in a photo walk. But then come to think about it, this is the lens that really got me hooked into photography like 5 years ago. So just because it's old, I don't see how it changes things. So I just wanted to thank my YouTuber friend who is also a landscape photographer, Joris, in giving me the idea and reminding me that I have this kit lens with me and it needs some love and attention. So when you're just starting out in photography, don't ever discount the usage of a kit lens. They're very, very affordable and great for practicing to improve your eyes in seeing different compositions while maximizing the potential of basic gear. Also, when you're starting out, it's better not to invest too much money into buying expensive gear until you're very firm that you're going to stick to this hobby or venture for the long term. And then once you've maximized the usage of your kit lens and still it's not enough for your photos anymore, and then that's the time when you can already purchase more expensive gear for better quality images. And speaking of next level photos, why don't you check out this video where I plan around using my Sony 100-400mm to take the full moon photos. Very exciting experience, so I'll see you there and thanks for watching.